Okay, my friends, this is the shocker du jour, which is going to probably upset you because it upsets me. We are spending a ton of money going up to Mars with these rovers, and I can pretty much assure you that they're going up there, and I can show you what they have found and what they have missed. It's absolutely stunning because I've been after them for years saying, look at this, look at this, look at this. Not a single response. And I'll show you what I was saying to look at. Absolutely no question. Life is saturated on Mars as it is on Earth. Only they have been destroyed by an impact. And I'll show you where the impact happened too. And it's all been recorded. Velikovsky did the research on this. There was no question. This was seen during recent history and recorded. I'll show you. So if Earth is alive, why is Mars dead? Well, there it is right there. Not long ago, Mars was impacted by Venus, who was born, literally born from Jupiter. I have shown this. And this was what was recorded in history, and that is exactly what happened. It almost hit Earth, Venus did, and then it came a couple of times by Earth, and then it impacted Mars, or in between the two, somewhere along that line. It just swept across our atmosphere and literally cooked the world. The waters literally, they say, boiled. I don't know how much boiling happened, whether the oceans actually boiled or just a little bits and pieces, I don't know. But it was, I believe, 7 days of intense radiation as it came towards the Earth. This is Venus now, and because it was brighter than hell, it was a fiery comet. And then it bounced off our atmosphere and just wiped out everything. And then, and Yale has agreed there is a region that is a worldwide flood of salty waters created all of my mud fossils. All right? And they have a paper out. It's called Perfectly Preserved Soft-Bodied Creatures. And it's 100% worldwide. And I know why, because of this event. I've been studying this very, very, very well. So Mars was destroyed during this event. That's why it's the red planet. It's just literally saturated with blood. Earth is also, this clay is nothing more than fleshy, bloody slurry. That's what clay is. Now you're going to say, oh, Roger, how can you say that the Earth is all made out of creatures? Well, let's take Petra. You know what that is right there? That is an artery. I'm telling you, that at one time was nothing but blood, saturated, packed red blood, and they carved it just like you would carve a clay. And apparently, I believe at the time it was sort of soft, because again, this did not happen that long ago. Now look at these little boxes. You see them? Box, box, box. And you see this texture here and then that texture here? These little boxes. Look at it carefully. And all this red clay. Let's take a little deeper look at what Petra really is constructed of. You see that? That's what's inside of Petra. This is connective tissue, blood, muscle. That's all it is. Petra is a gigantic chunk of muscle. Oh, come on, Roger. Oh, yeah, well, there it is. There's Petra right there. These are what they call sarcomeres. You see that? All these little blocks. This was where blood ran. These were blood vessels. And that was the artery that fed this network of blood vessels. And then that network of blood vessels fed these sarcomeres, which are the muscles. And they are exactly identical on Mars and approximately the same size. This is what's called muscle sarcomeres. Now, there is connective tissue in there. Tough, tough, tough. And there is 1,000 layers. And we're going to see them up on Mars, too. Exactly identical. And then you have these breaks in them. They're like in blocks. And I can show you this anatomically and on the surface of the Earth and on the surface of Mars. These pull in together. You see when they pull together? That's how your muscles work. This erodes out because they're actually not even connected. I'll show you what they look like in an electron microscope. And then this actually erodes away too. But these tiny little connective tissues don't erode away. The red muddy stuff, yes, it does. In the correct conditions where it's very dry, like on Mars. The red stuff in between just runs right out, and that's why it's the red planet. The rest is the connective tissue, and it's all over Mars. You see, there's the close-up right there. That's where between the sarcomeres. This is the connective tissue. In between the connective tissue was the red stuff. That's all run out. All right, this is some of those little sarcomeres. Of course, it's highly magnified. Now, let me show you something else. You see this right here? This guy's washing off this block of stone they're cutting. Well, you see this red stuff? That's blood. You see these here? Those are muscle fibers. You think I'm kidding? Remember that little bloody spot here? You want to see it in anatomical? Here it is right here. There's that little bloody spot. You see, it's the exact same thing. All right, there's your blood vessel that's feeding all of these tiny little holes all over the place. You see this? All of those little tiny holes that are in there give oxygen and energy to your sarcomeres. There's the little sarcomeres. I don't know if you can see them. I can see them. I don't know if you can or are going to be able to see them, but they're in there, and that's what muscle fibers are made of. And as I showed you, that was that big block of stone. All right, so you saw Petra. You saw it's made of muscle inside of that blood vessel area. And on top of Petra is an area that shows you the same stuff. This is all connective tissue in with muscle tissue. But here was just straight artery. That was just straight, virtually 100% blood. All right, now get ready for this. I showed you that this is what sarcomeres look like. And there's very tiny, 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 tiny little layers of very tough connective tissue, and then all the red stuff just runs out. And that's what happened up on Mars. And here is some of it right here. That's all. You'll see piles of red. Wait till you see the Mars crab. Now don't forget, do not forget this. Do not forget this. This right there, my friends, is the way arteries and veins work. You see that little hole right next to that? That's a vein. You see the artery and then you see the vein next to it. Well, let me show you something on Mars, which is the Mars crab. That feeds muscle sarcomeres. All these little muscle sarcomeres that have eroded. Okay, this is basically Petra. This is the artery. And then there's a vein right next to it. And I don't know if you see the vein at Petra, but you can see it normally. Now, this is these little arterial passageways that feed off into the sarcomeres. And this is a real close-up of the artery, and of course there's a vein. And these are the blood vessels that feed the muscle tissue, and which is tissues are these sarcomeres. Now remember all these little tiny stripes. What are they doing there? If this is not the case, why is everything all red running out of these muscle sarcomeres? All right, these are the connective tissue portions. They break right down the center, exactly what I said. Here's what that blood vessel is, exactly what I said. It's a vein and an artery, precisely what I said. These are all connective tissues. Let me think of another expletive to, anyway. That's The only way you can argue with that is just to say, no, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. No, you're an idiot. Now, I've been talking to people about this since 2015, I think, or 2014. I got all kind of videos about it. Plus, this is not the only thing. This I got to everywhere, saturated with life, just like it is here on Earth. They discount all of these mountains being literally muscle tissue. You want to see a mountain of muscle tissue? I'll show you one right now, like here on Earth. You see that? That is muscle tissue. That's not just erosion. You see, and all this red stuff running off is the blood, where it serviced the muscle tissue. And most of this is still connective tissue because that doesn't wear away like the red stuff does. Okay, this is nothing but muscle right here. This is the tendon that connects from the bone, which is right here. You see, this is the bone. This little piece right here up to that abrupt transition is the tendon. Then the abrupt transition, then you get muscle fibers. And these are those sarcomeres. And it gets more and more, less and less mineralized as you get into the muscle. And then you have basically just sarcomeres. But from here is a transitional area between mineralized muscle and regular red muscle. Up here is exactly like Petra, on a quite a bit minor scale, but that's the artery right there. These are all arteries. This was completely saturated with blood at one time. Of course, it eroded out of there, but that's what that layer of blood is. And on the other side of this, actually, the blood is still there. It didn't erode out. But that's this same rock. That was where the bone was. This is the tendon that attached to that bone. There's that little tiny springy part, which is the tendon. Then you get into the muscle, which does that. This one goes just a little tiny bit to give you that little bump, and it is tough as hell tendon. You see the difference in color here and color here? Wait till I show you one that's in the ocean. Oh man, this is just too much. Way too much. All right, don't forget this. You see that little bump right there? You see that little round bump? And it's coming up here, this big white stripe coming up, and this area right here is the tendon. And that will not erode away like muscle. That stuff is tough. That's the tendon right there. Remember I showed you that white stripe coming through? That's the major attachment spot to where would have been a bone right up here. On mine, the bone is up here. And that locks it right in with some literally glue. It looks like just like glue, really nasty, tough stuff. And that holds it to the bone. And then you have the little tendon right here would have started the muscle going that way, and that just erodes away. All of these are layers of tissue, but that's the main attachment spot, as I showed you on mine. And then you can see mine is identical, no question whatsoever. It's a little smaller. It tastes smaller. But look at that. Now, guess what they do? They say all of this was layers and layers and layers and layers from all kinds of this and that. And, well, no. It is not millions of years in one picture. It's, I don't know, a couple thousand seconds. The thing died and fell over, and that's what's left of his tendon. Everything's got to change, everything, because nobody can open their eyes big enough for this. That's what's the problem with Mars is. They're walking around in circles. Well, why don't you listen to Roger and let us discuss it. Let us debate it. Let us present our evidence from your side, from my side, from upside, downside, inside, outside. I don't care what side you want to come from. I will discuss it. I do biology. I do chemistry. I do physics. I do anatomy, I do history, I do all biology, anything you want. Let's do it. Let's talk. This is hilarious. This is nothing more than tissue. This is muscle. This is muscle. It's all over Mars. You see that? These are some big sarcomeres. These are sarcomeres. I'm telling you right now, I know this stuff inside and out. Nobody can challenge me. There is a bazillion different layers of the connective tissue, and all the red stuff runs out. Now this has some black because there's got to be a vein in here somewhere close. The vein is all the black. the red is the red blood, but somehow after turns red, it gets used and then turns black. So that's what we're seeing here, is the vein side. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, these are the Mars blueberries. Also reported in 2014 or so. And I looked at them, I knew exactly what they are. Those are interstitium balls. I'll show you in a second. This is the lower level of the membrane. In here was a fluid-filled section which all gluey straps anchored by these balls. It all eroded away. Let's see what it looks like anatomically. Alright, I know this has got to be a freak show for most people, because it is, it's crazy. But this is the Moki marbles right here. This is on Earth. Same stuff. Same exact stuff. Now, the stuff that was in the middle, like right here, this is over in the United Kingdom, Hunstanton Cliffs or something like that. This red stuff would have been all in here, and the balls were all in here. And that way there you can pull and stretch, and it comes back to where the balls are anchored, and here it is right here. This is what they call interstitium now. So you have your skin, then you have a fluid-filled highway. All right, that fluid-filled highway, they have just discovered just recently that in this white layer allows your enzymes and all your bacteria to float through your body to go attack invaders. All right, now, in addition to that, these little fluid-filled sacs hold bacteria and enzymes. They are the protective. This is really your immune system. Now, those are anchored with these little black balls. You see them? You see the little black balls? Now, this is a spring. These are floppy. The red stuff is just floppy. It'll just, if these springs get damaged, your lung collapses. And that's what I believe is happening in some of these diseases, these invasive lung diseases. It attacks this level of collagen, because these are collagens. This one collagen is a floppy, and this one here is a springy. There's 28 different collagens in your body, but primarily there's only 4 or 5 or 6, I think maybe, that are the real biggies, and one of them is the real biggie, and it's the floppy stuff. Your whole body is made out of floppy stuff. Now, this, you see these balls? Those are those balls. It's insane, and these are the balls. I mean, I'm sorry, this is just a case of fact. And these are the balls that have eroded out of here. And what's it turned into? Mud. The stuff that erodes out is just mud. It's all over the earth is mud. And there's different types of mud depending upon what, there's bentonite, well, it's clays primarily. You've got bentonite clay. There's all kinds of different types of clays. And there's red and there's white ones and all kinds of stuff. This is body tissue, and this is the earth, and the earth is a corpse. Well, it's pretty damn close. Or it was at one time, and the things that are growing on this corpse are alive. Mars, I don't see anything growing, to be honest with you. I haven't seen anything growing up there. So that is unlikely that there's going to be anything alive, because it was destroyed. The water was destroyed. Everything was destroyed with that impact. I can't even imagine what it would have been like. Just think about it. Venus is bigger than Mars, and it hit Mars and, well, I showed you the scrape. It hit Mars and smashed here and splashed out a little bit, and then just went off. This is bigger than the United States. This was a hell of a smash to a living creature. These were creatures that were, I mean, I don't know if it was alive or not, but they were moist. As long as they stayed wet, they would continue to basically do the life-giving processes. As long as there was enough moisture, everything's going to flow through the earth, through these arteries and veins and everything. That's the river systems and so forth. I'm telling you, I studied it very, very well. Our planet was alive, or is the product of of a dead creature still producing waters through its arterial and vein networks and so forth. And that's why even hot springs, all that stuff, that's decaying biomass, guts and everything else, feces and all that. It composts under there, and then you get these hot bubbling places on Earth. We have to understand, as far as I can tell, and I will discuss this with anyone, I'm 100% willing. And if you get me on any of these shows, Joe Rogan, everybody says, oh, go on Joe Rogan. I tried getting through all these people. Nobody has ever responded, not one. I think they all think I'm insane, but, you know, what can I say? I may be insane, but I'm not crazy. Okay, I'm just going to finish up by showing you a few shots here. This, I had to put this upside down. You see it's upside down, the names, because the skin is on the top. Your fleshy stuff is on the top here. And then below that is your muscle. In between is that fluid-filled highway and the interstitium and so forth. Now, this is, up closer is this, and up real close, we get down to the sarcomeres, which I know I've already explained to you. Now, this is also from the first mission, the Mars Morse code. All right, well, what is Mars Morse code? This is interstitium. And what is interstitium? Are those balls with straps. All those straps allow the balls, the skin and so forth, to go around and then come back to wherever the anchors were. See, these are stretched out, and these are all squinched together. That's how your skin works. You can squinch it and you can pull it apart. But it will always come back, hopefully, until you get old. It comes back pretty much to where it was in the beginning. Like up here, they're sort of all together. You can pull it this way, pull it that way, eventually it comes back. This is pinched together, pulled apart, and that's how the guy died. Now, why are these things all by themselves the little black balls? They're the tough. Those are the blueberries. Now, in between, you see this? This almost looks like it was sandblasted. And that is because there is no real moisture to speak of on Mars to make it run into like muddy pools they do on Earth. So this way, it tells me, I'm almost 100% absolutely certain, that this picture was taken in a place where they had enormous amounts of interstitium, huge, and not on Earth because there's no runoff, there's no. Sooner or later, you're going to get watery interactions, and I would be able to see those. I can't see those. I see sandblasting. And that's what dust does. And it's eroded everything here down the cheap stuff, your skin and your fleshy part. Then you get into this interstitium. This is a little tough, and it's supposed to be because it's got to keep you moving around. And then the straps are not as tough as the balls. So we got rid of all the really cheap stuff, your fleshy stuff. Then we get down into here, and then where they're pocketed here, they don't get sandblasted. Where they have arisen up here, they get more sandblasted. And because the straps are cheaper than the balls remain and turn into the blueberries. I hope that made sense. This is an area where there is no stretch. So let them give me an explanation for that. I can explain it because these are some of the tendon entheses have these kind of structures built into them. To give them, I believe it gives them a little bit of flexibility, but some really tough strength, but just a taste of flexibility. Let me show you some. Okay, remember I showed you this one? This is from up on Mars that they show, no explanation. Well, here's my explanation. It is this, which is from a tendon ball. These are tendon balls. Some of them have this style, and like I say, I think that gives them a little bit of flexibility, but they always come back to where they should be. And I don't know where that is in the body, to be perfectly honest with you, that style. And then there's this style here, which I think this is chert or flintstone. Very, very tough. Flint, and then it has a core. And then there's another style, which is the eggshell style. Hold on, where is that? This style here. they have just like the Russian doll looking thing. Now, this is where it attaches and the stalk comes out. And here's what they look like anatomically. All right, here's the tendon ball itself. And right there is that abrupt transition. It goes into the stalk. And they break right there. And I'm telling you right now, the moons have these. They have their tendon balls, or some of them, at least some of them. We live in a biological universe. I just showed you what's up on Mars. What's on Earth? The dragon in Morocco is over 1,100 miles long. So, and it's a dragon. And I have giants right here on my property that I have DNA tested and CAT scan bits and pieces. And one of them is got to be very close to 200 feet tall. The fingertip alone, just the tip of the finger, is 3 feet long. So, and this has all been ignored, and I mean literally ignored with vigor for 15 years. And in 2015, I finally wrote the book. That I was upset. I wrote the book, Mudfossils, Velikovsky, and Mines in Collision. That was my book. It's only 99 cents on Amazon. I was really fed up with academia, and today I am worse fed up with them, because it is now 8 years later from the book. But a year later from when I started, when I wrote the book, after I presented all this stuff to Yale, they took credit for it and said, oh yes, this all happened. There was a great worldwide flood, salt waters everywhere, 100% perfectly preserved, soft body creatures, just like I'm presenting. And I have them here in new species called no-toes. And we have these in copious quantities, and I'm trying to get them examined. That's where the tibia comes down, and that's where the fibia comes down. And it looks like a shoe, but it's not. And it actually looks like it has a sole on it, but it's not. I'm telling you, it's not. Well, it's, as far as I could determine, it is absolutely, they have springs inside. And I have other ones to show, and we're about to unveil some pretty serious stuff to some pretty serious people, and let's see how it ends up, because I don't think it's going to end up very well at all. Certainly not for them. I think it's going to end up fine for us. But you guys got to step up, and you got to thumb me up for everything. It's just give me a thumb up. We got to get this in the algorithm outside of crazy people. Just give a thumb up, and hopefully everybody will see this, and sooner or later they say, what are we paying billions and trillions of dollars to these people? The incompetence level is just staggering. If it's incompetence, I can't believe it. There's anybody that's incompetent. They can't see what I'm showing. If you think I'm showing you something that's not realistic, I want you to quote, and I want you to do a video with me that says, oh, Roger, this is why this isn't right. This is why. This is what's called vigorous discussion, vigorous debate. You don't get anything concluded by saying, oh, no, we know it's all right. And that's exactly what I hear from all the people from Fermilab. Oh, well, we know this can't be right. I said, why? Why do you know that? Well, it's just impossible. I said, no, it's not. Well, I got things to do. Goodbye. And that's it. You never hear from anybody again. And after I got known in that community, I am totally banned from having anything to do there. And that is because there's a dismissal of truth. And that is disgraceful. It's disgraceful. If you can't see what I have shown, and want to debate it and want to find out more about it, then you are not a scientist. You are not a curiosity person. I think you're just a mental-sided slave to academia. And I mean, I always end up going to this route at the end, because it's been so many years now, and my hero Velikovsky was destroyed. He died, and he would have gone into oblivion had I not wrote the book about him, the Minds in Collision book, because he wrote Worlds in Collision, and they destroyed him, made him take it off the bookshelf after, I think it was 11 weeks on #1 on the top seller book of the New York Times. They forced the publisher to take that book off. Velikovsky was destroyed. And if you ask your professors right now, what do you think about Velikovsky? Here's what I'm going to tell you right now. If you get a positive response from any of them, I would love to hear that. But I can guarantee you almost exclusively you will hear, who's he? Or, oh, that guy was crazy. Oh, that guy was a God crazy person. Well, he was a good friend of Einstein's. And Einstein gave him credit. And Einstein died with Velikovsky's book on his bed when Einstein passed away. He was reading Velikovsky's book, because Velikovsky wrote about all of the things in Egypt, about Akhenaten and from the beginning. And I mean, he got into it deep. He studied history. He didn't just come out and say, oh, this got to be crazy. Oh, these people are crazy talking about giants and dragons. Yeah, it's just nonsense. No, not nonsense, my friends. And none of the early myths were nonsense. Now, what does that do to religion? A lot. But to me, it fortifies the fact that Jesus Christ came back here to say there's some really bad creatures and some really bad things can happen to you if you don't follow me. That's all I can say. That's what I've taken away from all this research, and I was never, ever, ever a believer in anything other than Darwinism and scum turning into life. I just ate it all up like they said. Well, not really. I always was a little skeptical, but I had no way to turn. I had no physical evidence. I'm a material scientist. I've done this all my life. And if I touch things, I work with things. I work with electricity and components and all that stuff. And if I can't actually identify something hard and solid, what are you going to do? You have to take the expert's word for it. Well, these are theoretical people. They have no applied science capabilities whatsoever. They are theoretical thinkers of what could or couldn't be. Well, that's impossible because we say it's impossible. And we have a whole batch of people called peers which will review this. No, they don't. They don't review it. They say, this guy's insane. Yes, forget about him. And if you want to step up for me, you will be considered insane and you will be forgotten about. That's why I have no allies in academia. Zero. And they avoid me like the plague. And I understand why. They'll be destroyed and their lives depend on them. I couldn't care less. I don't care about money. I don't care about status. I don't care about any of that stuff. Laugh at me all you want. I want truth, and I want to find out what's going to happen to me end of this life and where I'm headed into the next one. And I'm telling you right now, this is fascinating as can be, because there is a whole realm of possibilities. One of them is the Old Norse, Ragnarok and all that stuff. And where you're a vicious killer and you're welcomed into this heavenly realm of vicious killers. And then there's the other one, the Christian one, where you can only have love and peace. Well, you can only have peace with love. You can't be a vicious killer and have peace. However, Ragnarok is a whole different issue, because they say the giants are going to come back and we need warriors to fight the giants. Now, that's possible. Who's to say what now? But I can tell you one thing. There was some serious, serious stuff going on long ago, which has been just laughed at and dismissed. And, you're going to find out you'll be demeaned. But I got a feeling this is not far from wrong. Look at, he's got some winged dragons on his thing. I mean, these guys had some class. Look at this. This is serious. Look, he's got a Medusa on his... got lions for little tags on his feet. This is just really, really cool stuff. And as far as I could determine, this is not far from the truth. And it could be the exact truth. So, like I say, if you want to muddle around in the mud, you can keep muddling around in the mud. I go for the mud fossils. And we got some thinking to do. And if you keep following all these other people, you're academic professors and so forth, they have you under their thumb so crushingly. They tell you there's no way you're going to get a job unless you come to them to get educated. You go to there and they say, here's what you have to say, or we'll destroy your life. And you say, wait a minute, you're not right. Life destroyed. Next. All right, I know this is just over the top crazy, but it is true. I have just shown you stuff that there's no valid scientist on the face of the planet that can stand in front of me and debate it and win. Can't be done. This is Mimas, which is a moon. That is the tendon stalk, which is the tendon stalk here from a tendon ball. All of the ancient texts, the oldest texts, talk about Gaia being a creature of being the earth and mating with the sky. And the ancient Norse talk about the earth being the head of Ymir or something like that, the flesh of his body. Even Christ said the earth is a corpse and a body. That's in the Nag Hammadi texts. I'm telling you right now, we need to stop and listen and think and talk about eternity, because I'm telling you, eternity's looking me right in the face. So I'm looking right back. I'm not trying to hide from it. I want to know what is, and then when I look at this Ragnarok thing versus the Christian heaven, versus the Ragnarok, Valhalla. And then there's other story. And I don't know anything about the Asian and Indian texts and so forth to speak of. There's so much. And they all have, there is obviously different races. And they obviously are different peoples. I mean, there's white, there's black people, there's Asians, there's Koreans, there's Japanese, and they all have some little different thing going on. That's not being racist or anything. That's just a fact. And I love everybody. I think everybody's perfect, and I love the people that were the most demeaned and the most suppressed. I love the most. The ones that had everything free, and I was like that. Everything, I never appreciated anything, and now I feel kind of bad about that. I could have done a lot more with my life to benefit humanity, and I didn't. I wanted to benefit myself, and I was never really bad to people or anything. I thought I was fair and trustworthy, some of the basic things. But compassion, no, I didn't have enough. And love, no, I didn't have enough of that either. And now I'm trying to find my way into eternity. So I don't know. I run into these rambles. I can't stop myself. As I start to think, I start to go, oh, this is what they call spur of the moment.